Kaya dalawa, biphasic. Within 10 minutes and then 2 hours. Yan yung dalawang peak ng insulin secretion. Okay? Ngayon, after release, insulin will then act on the target cells. But first, it has to bind with membrane receptors on the target cell. So we will now talk about the mechanism of action of insulin. So first, ano ba itong insulin receptors? So they are glycoproteins made up of 2 alpha subunits exposed to the ECF and 2 beta subunits that traverse the thickness of the membrane and are exposed to the ICF. And these 2 alpha and 2 beta subunits are joined by disulfide bridges. Now, the 2 alpha subunits contain the binding site for insulin, whereas the 2 beta subunits have an intrinsic tyrosine kinase activity. Okay? So, anong mangyayari? Once insulin binds to the alpha subunit, dahil merong intrinsic tyrosine kinase activity ang beta subunits, mag-undergo sila ng autophosphorylation. And that will produce protein mediators which we call insulin receptor substrates. And what will these insulin receptor substrates do? They will phosphorylate specific intracellular enzymes that will bring about specific actions of insulin on the target cell. At ano-ano yan, mga action ng insulin? Number 1 is to increase the formation of GLUT4. Pag na-form na yung GLUT4, yung GLUT4 will move to the membrane of the target cell. So magkakaroon ng increased glucose uptake by the target cell. Some of these enzymes will stimulate protein synthesis, lipogenesis, glycogenesis. A slower or more delayed action is to stimulate cellular growth and gene expression. Ito yung mga general actions of insulin sa mga target cell. Okay? Up to this point, do you have any questions? Section B.
None
po.
Okay, so we continue. Bakit ang section B, pamula ng first set, palaging inaantok? Napaka-passive, napakatahimik. So this is being recorded, maririnig na ibang section yan. Okay now, what are the effects of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism? Dito sa picture, makikita nyo yung type ng food na rich in carbohydrates. Examples include bread, mga pastries, ayan ang pasta. Okay. In relation to carbohydrate metabolism, insulin has 3 target tissues: muscle, liver, adipose. Okay? Let us talk first about the effects of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism in the muscle cell. Now, the membrane of a resting muscle is only slightly permeable to glucose. So all throughout the day, kung hindi naman kayo nag-exercise, kung hindi kayo involved sa mga sports activities, much of the nutrition of the muscle will come from fatty acids rather than carbohydrates. Okay? Ngayon, in between meals, when the blood glucose level falls, there is very little glucose present in the blood, so kukunti pa rin ang glucose uptake by the cells. Anong effect ngayon ng insulin? So this graph will show you yung amount ng extracellular glucose, yan yung green curve, intracellular glucose, yan yung red, in a resting muscle, sa control. So pag sinabi natin control, resting yung muscle, wala ka pang insulin na binibigay. So anong makikita nyo? Ang taas ng extracellular glucose. But in a resting muscle, pag nagbigay ka ng insulin doon sa tao, ano nangyari? Nag-increase ang intracellular glucose. So that means one way to increase glucose transport in a resting muscle is to give insulin. Okay? Now, what are the conditions kung kailan yung muscle gagamit ng glucose as energy source instead of fatty acids? One is during moderate to heavy exercise. But take note, kung sa resting muscle, ang membrane niya is slightly permeable to glucose. During moderate to heavy exercise, the membrane of the muscle cell becomes highly permeable to glucose even without insulin. So I repeat, during moderate to heavy exercise, the membrane of the skeletal muscle cell is highly permeable to glucose even without insulin. Okay? Next, a few hours after a meal, when the blood glucose level increases, insulin secretion increases, it will now increase glucose uptake by the muscle cells. Okay? Okay, now, so what are the specific effects of insulin, again, in relation to carbohydrate metabolism in the muscle? One is to increase glucose transport. So pag pumasok yung glucose sa muscle, anong mangyayari sa kanya? It will be converted to glycogen. Glycogen is the main storage form of glucose in the muscle as well as in the liver. So the process is glycogenesis, and the enzyme stimulated here is glycogen synthase or glycogen synthetase. Okay? What will happen to the glycogen that is stored in the muscle? It can be used as energy source by the muscle cell, and the process is glycolysis. Okay? At the same time, insulin inhibits glycogenolysis. So breakdown of glycogen to glucose by inhibiting the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase. So to summarize, the effects of insulin in relation to carbohydrate metabolism in the muscle cell: increased glucose uptake, increased glycogenesis, increased glycolysis, decreased glycogenolysis. Okay? Now, still in relation to carbohydrate metabolism, another target tissue of insulin is the liver. But again, take note, the membrane of the hepatocytes is permeable to glucose, even without insulin. However, after a meal, kung napakarami ng glucose sa plasma at na-stimulate ang insulin secretion, the more the membrane of the hepatocytes becomes permeable to glucose. Okay? Okay, now, what are the actions of insulin in relation to carbohydrate metabolism in the liver? Anabolic effects will include glycogenesis, conversion of glucose to glycogen. Again, glycogen is the main storage form of glucose in the liver as well as in the muscle. Insulin will promote glycolysis, breakdown of glycogen to glucose, with glucose being utilized as energy source by the cell. Insulin also has anti-catabolic effects, and that is to inhibit glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. I-clarify lang natin. Pag glucose to glycogen, glycogenesis. Glycolysis, glycogenolysis, glycogen broken down into glucose. Anong pagkakaiba nila? Ano? Anybody? How would you differentiate glycolysis from glycogenolysis? Si Charis, where is Charis?
Doc,
Yes, Iha?
yung sa glycolysis po, Doc, yung glucose po is na-breakdown po into pyruvate. Glucose po kasi is monosaccharide, while for glycogenolysis po, glycogen is polysaccharide po, which will be broken.
Ulit-ulit nga, Iha, louder please. In glycolysis,
In glycolysis po, Doc, glucose will be catabolized to pyruvate po. And then for glycogenolysis po, glycogen, which is polysaccharide po, will be broken down to glucose po.
di ba pag glycolysis, broken down yung glycogen into glucose din? Kasi glycogen is the storage form of glucose. In both processes, glycogen is converted back to glucose.
Yes.
Anong pagkakaiba na ngayon?
I think, ang alam ko po kasi sa size po ni glucose tsaka
Louder mo nga, Iha, hindi kita masyadong marinig.
I think dun po sa size po kasi, glycogen po kasi is larger than glucose in terms
Glycogen is?
Larger than glucose since polymer po si...
Oo nga. Ito, Iha, ha? Sa glycolysis at glycogenolysis, yung glycogen broken down to glucose pareho. You break down, kasi ang glycogen mo, maraming glucose na pinagsama-sama. Naging glycogen na store siya. So pag glycolysis, glycogenolysis, yung glycogen broken down into several glucose molecules. Kaya lang, anong pagkakaiba ng proseso ng glycolysis sa glycogenolysis? Ano, Stephen?
Doc, pareho lang din po kami ng idea.
In glycolysis, glycogen broken down into glucose, sabi mo nga, Iha, further converted to pyruvate, yan yung ating anaerobic metabolism. In other words, in glycolysis, kahit nag-produce ka ng glucose, yung glucose nagagamit ng cell as energy source. Pag glycogenolysis, glycogen broken down into glucose, ano nangyari ngayon sa glucose? Hindi siya ginagamit as energy source. Instead, nare-release siya sa circulating blood. Kaya pag glycogenolysis, nag-i-increase ang blood glucose level. Pag glycolysis, hindi. Kasi nagagamit ng cell ang glucose. Okay? Ano ngayon ang gluconeogenesis? Ayan, genesis. Gluconeogenesis.
Formation po ng glucose, Doc.
Ano na?
Formation po of glucose from other substrates.
From non-carbohydrate substrates. Example?
Mga amino acids po.
Amino acids. Okay. So yan yung anabolic at anti-catabolic actions of insulin. Okay. For enzymes, anong ginagawa ng insulin? It stimulates the enzyme glucokinase. Sabi ko nga kanina, in the presence of insulin, lalong dadami ang glucose uptake by the hepatocytes kasi stimulated ang glucokinase. Next, another enzyme stimulated is glycogen synthase or glycogen synthetase that will convert glucose to glycogen. So yan yung increase ang glycogenesis. On the other hand, insulin inhibits phosphorylase. Kaya inhibited ang glycogenolysis. Okay? So to summarize, what are the actions of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism, this time in the liver? So number one, increase glucose uptake, increase glycogenesis, increase glycolysis. Pareho sa muscle. Okay? Next, decrease glycogenolysis, decrease gluconeogenesis. Clear? Okay, next. So what will happen in between meals? So in between meals, the blood glucose level decreases. So that insulin secretion is inhibited. At lahat yan mababaliktad. Okay? Now, also, when the blood glucose level decreases, hindi lamang insulin secretion ang inhibited, but glucagon secretion will now increase. And glucagon activates the enzyme phosphorylase as well as glucose phosphatase. So magkakaroon tayo ng glycogenolysis. Okay, ito yung proseso ngayon. Kung kanina, in the presence of insulin, phosphorylase is inhibited, with lack of insulin in the presence of glucagon, phosphorylase is now activated. At anong gagawin niya? Yung glycogen may split to glucose phosphate. That is the initial step. Okay? Then, glucagon will activate glucose phosphatase. At anong gagawin niya? It will split glucose from phosphate. So meron ka na ngayong free glucose that will diffuse into the blood, increasing the blood glucose level. Okay? Okay, next. There are some cells or tissues in the body that do not need insulin to take up glucose. Ito na yung mga tinatawag nating insulin-independent cells. Ibig sabihin, yung membrane nila, permeable na talaga sa glucose, hindi kailangan ng insulin. Brain cells or neurons. Remember that the main source of energy of our brain cells is glucose. Okay? Renal tubules, intestinal mucosa, red blood cells, and the pancreatic beta cells. You can also include here the hepatocytes. Kasi permeable naman talaga ang membrane ng hepatocytes sa glucose. Kaya lang, sabi ko nga, kung may insulin ka, lalo lang siyang nagiging permeable. Okay? Now we go to the effects of insulin on fat metabolism. So this time, we have two target cells, adipose at saka liver or hepatocyte. Okay? So what are the effects of insulin on fat metabolism? Number one is to increase fat synthesis and storage. The main storage form of fats, especially in adipose cells, is triglyceride. So the process is lipogenesis. And this is done by stimulating the enzyme lipoprotein lipase. So that means in the presence of insulin, ang nagiging source of energy ng mga insulin-dependent cells is glucose rather than fatty acids. So yung insulin is actually a fat sparer. Okay? So ito na yung specific actions niya. Promotes triglyceride storage. Again, the process is lipogenesis. So paano mangyayari yan? So initially, increase uli ang glucose uptake by the adipose cells. But this time, instead of glucose being converted to glycogen, like in the muscle at saka sa liver, it is now converted to alpha-glycerophosphate, which is a substrate for triglyceride synthesis. Okay? At the same time, insulin inhibits lipolysis or breakdown of triglycerides by inhibiting the enzyme hormone-sensitive lipase. So ito ngayon ang mangyayari. Ito yung adipose cell. Okay? In the presence of insulin, pumasok ang glucose na convert siya sa alpha-glycerophosphate. And then sa left, yan ang liver, nag-form ng fatty acids, marirelease sa blood. Yung fatty acids, papasok din sa adipose cell, magko-combine sa alpha-glycerophosphate na form ang triglyceride. So that is lipogenesis. And this reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme lipoprotein lipase. So in relation to fat metabolism, you have to remember two enzymes. Lipoprotein lipase that will catalyze lipogenesis and hormone-sensitive lipase that will catalyze lipolysis. Okay? Now, factors that will lead to increased fatty acid synthesis in the liver. In the presence of insulin, pag napakarami ng glucose ang pumasok sa liver, mag-i-stop na ang glycogen synthesis, and this excess glucose will then be converted to fatty acids. Okay? Ngayon, paano mangyayari yan? How can glucose be converted to fatty acids? So we have here the glycolytic pathway. So tumingin muna kayo sa taas kasi nagsimula yan sa glycogen, and then mayroon ka ngayong glucose. O glucose na na-convert, sa glycogen, kaya lang napakadami niya. So yung kasobrahan will enter the glycolytic pathway. Ito yung sinasabi mo, Charis, kanina. So mako-convert siya initially to pyruvate. And this time, pyruvate will activate acetyl coenzyme A that will then stimulate fatty acid synthesis or lipogenesis. So na-convert yung glucose sa fatty acids. Okay? Next. Kung napakadaming glucose that is utilized as energy source by the cells, this will produce excess citrate and isocitrate, and they will then activate acetyl coenzyme carboxylase that will lead to the formation of malonyl coenzyme A. So ito ngayon yan. Nagsimula ulit tayo sa left side na napakaraming glucose, nagamit siya as energy source, nag-produce ng maraming citrate and isocitrate, which will activate acetyl coenzyme A, leading to the formation of malonyl coenzyme A that will again catalyze fatty acid synthesis or lipogenesis. Ang gusto lang ipakita doon sa dalawang processes na yan, kung napakaraming glucose sa liver, pwede siya ma-convert sa fatty acids. Okay? Next, ito yung binabanggit ko kanina. Yung mga fatty acids naman na manggagaling sa liver, marirelease sa blood. Papasok sa adipose cell, magko-combine sa alpha-glycerophosphate to be stored in adipocytes as triglycerides. Okay, now, what will happen if there is insulin deficiency? So yung kaninang hormone-sensitive lipase will be stimulated. So that will increase lipolysis, release phospholipids into the blood, as well as fatty acids, and these fatty acids can be converted to ketone bodies in the liver. Now, in the presence of insulin, hormone-sensitive lipase is inhibited, so phospholipids will not be released into the blood, kasama ang mga fatty acids, so hindi sila magpo-form ng ketone bodies. Okay? Now, insulin deficiency will increase the use of fats for energy. So lipolysis of triglycerides will release maraming free fatty acids pwedeng magamit as energy source by the cells in the body except for the neurons. Kasi nga ang main source of energy ng neurons will still be glucose. Okay? This excess free fatty acids can be converted to cholesterol in the liver. Pag na-release ang cholesterol, madideposit sa mga wall ng arteries, magkakaroon ng atherosclerosis. Itong excess free fatty acids in the liver can also be converted to ketone bodies. Tingnan natin kung paano yan mangyayari later on. Okay, ito na ngayon yan. So in the liver, ma-activate yung carnitine transport that will increase acetyl coenzyme A. With increase in acetyl coenzyme A, this time there will be increased formation of two ketone bodies. Ito yung acetoacetic acid and beta-hydroxybutyric acid, BHB. Acetoacetic acid, beta-hydroxybutyric acid, which will then be released into the blood. But in the absence of insulin, these two ketone bodies cannot be metabolized. So mag-accumulate yan sa blood, magdi-decrease ang plasma pH, magkakaroon ng metabolic acidosis. And in diabetic patients, that is what we call diabetic ketoacidosis. Okay? Okay. Long-term effects of insulin deficiency on fat metabolism. Kanina, nagkaroon ng atherosclerosis. Pag merong atherosclerosis, this can predispose to several conditions. Hypertension, myocardial infarction, cerebrovascular accident, or stroke. Pwede din renal failure. So actually, ang mga yan, complications lalo sa isang diabetic na pasyente. Okay? Ito ngayon yung mga pagkain na protein rich. So meron kang dairy products, meron kang meat, meron kang itlog, So what are the effects of insulin on protein metabolism? Now remember that insulin is an anabolic hormone. It will first increase amino acid uptake by the cells, liver at saka muscle. Okay? Once pumasok ang amino acids, mag-i-increase na ang protein synthesis. Okay? Aside from increasing protein synthesis, insulin inhibits protein catabolism. So hindi mag-i-increase ang release ng amino acid sa circulating blood. So hindi mag-i-increase ang gluconeogenesis. Okay? Ayan yun. Increase amino acid uptake, lalo na sa mga muscle. So increase protein synthesis, deposition sa muscle. So, ibig sabihin, nag-i-increase ang muscle size. On the other hand, kabaliktaran. Paano kung merong insulin deficiency? So, decrease ang protein synthesis, increase ang protein catabolism, amino acids, marirelease na yon sa blood. Anong consequences? Muscle wasting. Kung kanina muscle development, ngayon muscle wasting. Asthenia is extreme weakness, parang merong lack of energy, panghihina. You have the range functions of the different internal organs. And remember, yung mga antibodies natin, proteins din yan. So pag nag-decrease ang protein synthesis, nagdi-decrease ang ating resistance to infection. Okay? What are the other effects of insulin? So aside from increasing glucose and amino acid uptake by the cells, insulin together with growth hormone can stimulate cellular growth. Ito yung kanilang anabolic effect. Kasama pa rin yan doon sa increased amino acid uptake by the cells, increased protein synthesis by the cells. Okay? Next, insulin can also increase potassium uptake by the insulin-dependent cells, mainly by increasing the activity of the enzyme sodium-potassium ATPase, so that in patients with hyperkalemia or hyperkalemic renal failure, isang mode of treatment is to give insulin and glucagon. So anong nangyayari? So pag may hyperkalemia, ang taas ng plasma potassium level. Pag nagbigay ka ng insulin, anong mangyayari? Papasok ang potassium sa cells, manonormalize ang plasma potassium level. Eh bakit kailangan mo magbigay ng glucose? Kasi pag nagbigay ka ng insulin, expected mo magkakaroon ng hypoglycemia. So para ma-prevent yung hypoglycemia, sasabayan mo yung insulin ng glucose. Naintindihan yung mechanism dito? Okay, tumatango si Stephen. Okay, next. Now, the actions of insulin can be categorized as to its rapidity. Mabilis bang nangyayari, intermediate, or delayed? Yung mga rapid actions occur within seconds, and that will include increased glucose, amino acid, potassium uptake by the insulin-dependent cells, followed by stimulation of specific intracellular enzymes that will bring about increased protein synthesis, glycogenesis, glycolysis. At the same time, inhibiting enzymes that will bring about increased protein catabolism, glycogenolysis, and gluconeogenesis. A more delayed effect will be to stimulate intracellular enzymes that will bring about glycogenesis as well as lipolysis. So ito yung lipoprotein lipase that will bring about lipogenesis. Tapos inhibited yung hormone-sensitive lipase that will bring about lipolysis. Okay? So these are you have this in guidebook. The factors that will either increase or decrease the secretion of insulin. Of course, number one will be the plasma glucose level. Okay. Now remember that secretion of insulin as well as glucagon is under the modified negative feedback control system or physiologic response-driven feedback, and the blood metabolite that is involved here is glucose. So if there is an increased blood glucose level, insulin secretion increases. Insulin acts on the insulin-dependent cells to decrease the blood glucose level back to normal. Hindi para mag-cause ng hypoglycemia. Okay? Other factors that will stimulate insulin secretion. In the presence of arginine and lysine, yung increased glucose, lalo niyang ma-stimulate ang insulin secretion. GI hormones, gastrin, cholecystokinin, secretin, GIP can stimulate insulin secretion. Ay kailan ba nasisikret itong mga hormones na to? After a meal. So after a meal, when the blood glucose level increases, insulin secretion is directly stimulated. But at the same time, nag-i-increase din ang release dito ng mga GI hormones which can also stimulate insulin secretion. So all of them happening after a meal. Okay? And then meron tayong tinatawag na diabetogenic hormones or counter-regulatory hormones. And that will include glucagon, growth hormone, cortisol. You can also add epinephrine here. And then estrogen and progesterone. Ano bang ginagawa nitong mga hormones na yan? Usually, stimulated sila pag merong hypoglycemia. Pag na-release itong mga hormones na to, nagkakaroon ng hyperglycemia. And that will now stimulate insulin secretion. Okay? So, diabetogenic hormones yung mga yan. So, pag tumaas na yung blood glucose level, may stimulate na rin ang insulin secretion. Then we have parasympathetic stimulation. Excuse me. Now, what is the role of insulin in switching between carbohydrate and lipid metabolism? Ang una dapat dito, ikonsidera yung blood glucose level. Kasi kung mababa ang blood glucose, inhibited ang insulin, fats ang magiging source of energy ng maraming cells sa katawan except for the neurons. Kabaliktaran naman, kung maraming glucose, stimulated ang insulin, so carbohydrates ang gagamitin na energy source ng cells instead of fats. So that is the role of insulin in switching between carbohydrate and lipid metabolism. Okay? Now, growth hormone together with cortisol. Anong ginagawa nila? Remember, yan dalawang yan are diabetogenic hormones. Paano nila ini-increase ang blood glucose level? For growth hormone, it has anti-insulin actions. And that will include decreased glucose uptake by the cells, decreased peripheral utilization of glucose. So, ibig sabihin, kung marami kang growth hormone, anong mangyayari? Tataas ang blood glucose level. On the other hand, cortisol is also diabetogenic. Its main action is to stimulate gluconeogenesis. And that will again increase the blood glucose level. On the other hand, epinephrine as well as norepinephrine can stimulate glycogenolysis as well as lipolysis. Okay? Glucagon. It is a small peptide hormone made up only of 29 amino acid residues. So synthesized by the alpha cells of the pancreatic islets, its main target organ is the liver. It has minimal effects on the other cells in the body. So liver lang talaga. Other characteristics. It is a hyperglycemic hormone, a physiologic antagonist of insulin. Upon release into the circulating blood, glucagon is transported again in its free form. Kaya maigsi lamang ang kanyang plasma half-life. About 5 to 10 minutes, and it is metabolized mainly in the liver. Okay? So ano ngayon ang mechanism of action of glucagon sa hepatocytes? So once glucagon binds with membrane receptors of the hepatocytes, that will stimulate adenylyl cyclase, increasing the formation of cyclic AMP, which in turn will stimulate protein kinase A. Protein kinase A stimulates the enzyme phosphorylase that will bring about glycogenolysis. Okay? And these are now the specific actions of glucagon on the liver. Kabaliktaran lahat ng insulin. So in relation to carbohydrate metabolism, increase glycogenolysis, increase gluconeogenesis. In relation to fat metabolism, increase lipolysis, increase ketogenesis, decrease lipogenesis. In relation to protein metabolism, decrease protein synthesis, increase protein catabolism, increase formation of urea. Okay? So any questions up to this point, section B?
None po.
Okay, so we continue. Yan ang ginagawa ng glucagon. Kung kanina yung phosphorylase inhibited by insulin, it is now stimulated by glucagon. So that will bring about glycogenolysis. Okay? Now, regulation of glucagon secretion. So the main stimulus for glucagon secretion is hypoglycemia. And the main action of glucagon is to cause hyperglycemia. Okay? Other factors, increased blood amino acids, beta-adrenergic stimulation, vagal stimulation, GI hormones like cholecystokinin and gastrin. But secretin, increased blood levels of free fatty acids and ketone bodies, increased insulin and somatostatin, all of them inhibit glucagon secretion. So you should add here insulin and somatostatin. They inhibit glucagon secretion. Okay? What about somatostatin? Remember, this is the same as the growth hormone inhibitory hormone that is secreted by the hypothalamus. But this time, it is secreted by the pancreatic delta cells. Okay. So what will stimulate the secretion of somatostatin? Increased blood levels of glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, specific GI hormones. At kailan uli nangyayari itong mga to? After a meal. Okay? And the actions of somatostatin are all inhibitory. One is to inhibit the secretion of insulin and glucagon as part of the paracrine control system. Other effects are to inhibit GI motility, secretion, absorption. Okay? Okay, now. So we have here the homeostatic system that will regulate insulin and glucagon secretion and therefore regulate the plasma glucose level. So from the pancreas, the beta cells secrete insulin in response to hyperglycemia. And the effect is to cause hypoglycemia or just to lower the blood glucose level to normal. While the alpha cells secrete glucagon in response to hypoglycemia. And the effect is to cause hyperglycemia or just to raise the blood glucose level back to normal. Okay? Ito, effects ng insulin sa carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism, kulang yung diagram na yan. So, kumplituhin natin, sabayan ninyo ako. Okay? So, let us talk first about the effects of insulin deficiency on carbohydrate metabolism. So, pinag-uusapan natin, glucose. Okay. Without insulin or if there is insulin deficiency, there is decreased glucose uptake by the cells. Okay? So, ano mangyayari? there will be decreased intracellular glucose, increased extracellular glucose. Anong consequence ng decrease intracellular glucose? Nabawasan ang pagkain ng cell. And this is interpreted as cell hunger that can stimulate our appetite center, kaya nagkakaroon ng polyphagia. Okay? On the other hand, increase ang extracellular glucose. So meron kang hyperglycemia. And when the plasma glucose level exceeds its renal threshold, magtatapon na ngayon ng glucose sa urine. So magkakaroon ng glyco or glucosuria. Since glucose is a solute, pag natapon niya sa urine, nag-a-attract ng water, nag-a-attract ng electrolytes. So nagkakaroon ngayon ng osmotic diuresis that will increase the frequency of urination as well as volume of urine. Kaya meron ngayong polyuria. Okay? At dahil kasama ang sodium at potassium na itatapon, magdi-decrease ang plasma sodium, plasma potassium levels. Ngayon, anong consequences ng polyuria? Madi-dehydrate ngayon ang pasyente. And that will stimulate the osmoreceptors, then stimulate the thirst center, kaya merong polydipsia. Kaya di ba sa isang diabetic patient, polyphagia, polyuria, polydipsia. Okay, ihi pa rin siya ng ihi. So magdi-decrease ang ECF volume. So kasama doon ang blood volume. So magkakaroon ng hypotension. At pag hindi yan na correct, this can lead to circulatory shock, eventually death. Okay? So yan yun sa carbohydrate. Ang wala dito, yung effects ng insulin deficiency on protein metabolism. So ano mangyayari? Decreased protein synthesis, increased protein catabolism. Anong consequences? So muscle wasting. Okay? Weakness. So may asthenia, parang lack of energy. Decreased resistance to infection. And you have a negative nitrogen balance. What about on fat metabolism? Mababaliktad ulit. Decreased lipogenesis, increased lipolysis. So yung mga fatty acids marirelease na yon. Ngayon, itong fatty acids sa liver can be converted, number 1, to cholesterol. So ito na nga, anong mangyayari pag may hypercholesterolemia? Pwedeng ma-deposit sa wall ng arteries, magkakaroon ng atherosclerosis, complications, hypertension, myocardial infarction, renal failure, pwedeng stroke. On the other hand, itong fatty acids can also be converted to ketone bodies. So ayan uling acetoacetic acid, beta-hydroxybutyric acid na marirelease sa blood at dahil walang insulin, hindi mame-metabolize. So magkakaroon ng metabolic acidosis in diabetic patients, that is diabetic ketoacidosis. Anong consequences ng diabetic ketoacidosis? That will depress the function of the CNS. Kaya nagiging comatose ang pasyente. But if these ketone bodies will depress the function of the CNS, it increases the activity of the respiratory center in the medulla. So that ang pasyente suffering from ketoacidosis, may specific respiratory pattern yan. And that is described as rapid and deep respiration. Mabilis, malalim na paghinga. Yan yung tinatawag nating Kussmaul's respiration. K-U-S-S-M-A-U-L. Okay? So sana kung ano yung kulang dito sa diagram, nadagdag mo. Okay, next. So let us now talk about diabetes mellitus. So this is a syndrome of disordered metabolism that leads to inappropriate increase in the blood glucose level. Okay? It may be due to 2 factors. Yung first 2, ang problema, production of insulin. So this is actually an autoimmune disease that will lead to destruction of the pancreatic beta cells. Itong last 2, yan yung tinatawag nating insulin resistance. Ang problema, hindi sa pancreatic beta cells, kung hindi sa receptors for insulin in the target cells. Okay? And these are the different laboratory tests that are used to diagnose diabetes mellitus. One is to determine the fasting blood glucose or fasting blood sugar level. So, ibig sabihin lang, before you take the blood sample to be tested, dapat non-per-orem ang pasyente. Nagpa-fast. For how long? Gaano katagal yung fasting?
8 to 10 po.
Ano yun? Louder, louder please.
8 to 10 hours po.
Tagal naman.
6 to
8
8
hours lang. Okay? Anong mangyayari kung sumobra? Halimbawa ako, diabetic. Ang last meal ko kagabi, alas 6. Ay, yung medtech, dumating kanina, alas 7 na. So, 13 hours na yung fasting ko. So, hindi na accurate ang resulta. Anong mangyayari? At bakit nangyari yun?
Mag-hypoglycemia po yung pasyente.
Nag-hypoglycemia?
Opo. I mean, pag po sumobra ng fasting.
Ganon? Meron bang ibang idea?
Doc, try lang po. Mag-gluconeogenesis na po yung patient.
Okay, pag sobrang taas na, o sobrang tagal na ng fasting, just in the case of starvation, so nagka-hypoglycemia ng matagal, anong mangyayari? Stimulated ngayon ang secretion ng ating counter-regulatory or diabetic hormones. Glucagon, cortisol, epinephrine, itataas nila ang blood glucose level. Okay, kaya minsan, kahit nakagamot ka, diabetic ka, pero compliant ka sa medication, nagpakuha ka ng FBS, bakit ang taas pa rin ang blood sugar ko? Nagagamot naman ako kasi napakatagal mo na nag-fasting. Na-secrete na yung mga diabetogenic hormone na itaas na uli nila ang blood glucose level. Okay? So, dapat eksakto lang yan, 6 to 8 hours yung ating fasting. Next, oral glucose tolerance test, OGTT, wherein you give the patient 75 grams of glucose diluted in 300 ml of water. Ipaiinom mo. Eh di syempre, dapat tumaas ang blood glucose. Paano ka magme-measure? Within 2 hours, you take the blood glucose level every 30 minutes. So may 4 ka na sample. Kasi 2 oras mo gagawin every 30 minutes. Of course, expected, pag nagpainom ka ng glucose, kahit ba diluted yan, tataas ang blood glucose level. Pero after 2 hours, dapat pag-normalize na siya. Remember yung ating biphasic pattern release ng insulin? Nagpipik at 2 hours. Kaya dapat after 2 hours, balik na ang blood glucose level to normal. And yung every 30 minutes, dapat wala kang reading na more than 200 milligrams per deciliter. Okay? By the way, ano bang average na FBS? Kasi bawat laboratory, iba-iba ang binibigay na value. Standard natin para sa exam. Gawin natin 80 to 110 milligrams per deciliter. Kaya may tanong ako dyan. Kung ang normal nating FBS ranges from 80 to 110 milligrams per deciliter, halimbawa ang aking FBS ay 130 milligrams per deciliter. So, ang taas. Magtatabon ba ako ng glucose sa urine? Glucosuria. Umiilig ka iha. Bakit? Medtech ka, Charis?
No po, Doc.
Okay. Ano, hindi pa lalabas ang glucose sa urine dahil?
Sa transport maxima po ng concept po ng
transport maxima. But more than that, bago yung transport maxima. Kasi hindi pa na-exceed yung renal threshold, which is 160 to 180. At pag sinabi natin di bang renal threshold, that is the plasma concentration of glucose, above which, tsaka palang ikaw magkakaroon ng glucosuria. Okay? So kahit mag-140, mag-150, ang plasma glucose mo, hindi ka pa rin magtatapon ng glucose sa urine. Pag nalampasan mo yung renal threshold, ayan na, pagdating niya sa nephron, malalampasan na din niya yung transport maxima. Okay? Run random blood sugar is random, usually taken postprandial after a meal. So expected mataas siya, but hindi dapat tataas sa 200 milligrams. What is HbA1c or glycosylated hemoglobin? Sinong medtech dito? Ano yung glycosylated hemoglobin or HbA1c? Anybody? Anong mini-measure niyan? O dinidetermine niya?
Yung glucose level po in the past 3 months.
Okay, kasi yung glucose mo, glycosylated sa hemoglobin, nag-a-attach. At yung membrane ng RBC mo, normally permeable to glucose. So may take up siya. O tapos, bakit ilan kamo iwan? Sabi mo, 3 months? Amount of glucose is stored in red blood cells for 3 months. Bakit 3 months? Bakit 3 months? 3 to 4 months. Lifespan ng RBC, 120 days. At ang normal dito is 6%. Okay? Next. Ito kasi medyo luma na yan. So types of diabetes. Okay. So first, diabetes mellitus. Yung pinakataas na picture ang normal. So makita nyo yung pancreatic beta cells nag-release ng insulin. Walang problema sa receptor, so nag-bind ng insulin. Kaya through the action of GLUT4, nakapasok ang glucose sa cell. In type 1, may cross na agad. So walang insulin from the pancreatic beta cells. Dahil walang insulin, kahit normal ang receptor, hindi maipasok ng GLUT4 ang glucose sa cell. In type 2, meron kang insulin. Problema ang receptor. So just the same, hindi maipasok ng GLUT4 ang glucose sa cell. Okay? So what are the characteristics of type 1 diabetes mellitus? It occurs at an earlier age. The onset is earlier, usually less than 20 years old, but that is not absolute. Pwedeng more than 20 din yan. Okay? Kaya nga ang tawag sa type 1, juvenile onset, diabetes mellitus. Kalimitan ang mga pasyente, payat. Insulin level is low or absent because the main cause of type 1 is autoimmunity. So the body produces antibodies against the pancreatic beta cells. So pag nasira ang pancreatic beta cells, walang production ng insulin. Of course, the plasma glucose level is high. As to insulin sensitivity, so we are talking here about the receptors, walang problema, normal. Ang problema, wala kang hormone na mag-i-stimulate ng receptor. Since ang problema, walang insulin, the only mode of treatment here is to give insulin. Kaya ang tawag sa type 1 diabetes mellitus aside from juvenile onset, it is insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus. Okay? And this type of diabetes is more prone to develop ketoacidosis. On the other hand, ito naman yung type 2. So insulin resistance, ang problema nasa target cell. Okay. Age of onset later than type 1. So older than 30 years old, but then again, this is not absolute. And most frequently, the patients are obese. Kasi ang nangyayari dito, habang tumatanda, nagkakaedad ng isang tao, bumabagal ang metabolism. Eh kung masarap siyang kumain, tamad naman siya mag-exercise, so tataba siya. At kalimitan, pag sa mga obese na pasyente, yung receptors for insulin sa adipose cell nababawasan. Okay? So plasma insulin, initially, normal to high. Bakit initially lang? Kasi eventually, magdi-decrease na rin yan. Okay, ano nangyari? So normal ang pancreatic beta cells, ang problema receptor. So kahit marami kang insulin, hindi maka-act sa receptor, hindi makapasok ang glucose sa cell, mataas pa rin ang blood glucose level. So kung mataas ang blood glucose level, stimulated na naman ang pancreatic beta cells. Release na naman ang insulin. Wala pa rin action sa target cell. Pataas ng pataas ang blood glucose level, continuous ang stimulation ng pancreatic beta cells until the time that na-wear out na ang pancreatic beta cells. Gawa ng continuous stimulation. So hindi na rin sila magpo-produce ng insulin. So that eventually, sa mga type 2 diabetic patients na hindi nagda-diet, hindi nag-exercise, hindi naggagamot, mangangailangan na rin sila ng insulin. Okay? So the plasma glucose here is high, insulin sensitivity is decreased. This type of diabetes is not prone to develop ketoacidosis. Anong modes of treatment? Marami. Dahil obese, you start with diet and exercise. At yan ang pinakamahirap gawin. Dahil nga masarap kumain, nakakatamad mag-exercise. And then you can give oral hypoglycemic agents. Kaya lang sabi ko nga kanina, kung hindi naman compliant sa medication, eventually, mangangailangan na rin ng insulin. Okay? So ito yung comparison. Insulin only for type 1, marami for type 2. And you should also give lipid-lowering drugs to prevent atherosclerosis. Okay, type 2 is actually part of what we call metabolic syndrome. So ano bang criteria para masabi natin na isang tao may metabolic syndrome? So hyperglycemia, insulin resistance, so that is type 2. And abnormalities in lipid metabolism that will result to increased cholesterol, triglyceride, etc. Hypertension, at nakita nyo, mineasure yung abdominal circumference. Okay, ito ngayon yan. If the waistline of a female is more than 35 inches, sa male, more than 40 inches. Merong hyperglycemia, merong hypertension, mataas ang plasma level ng triglyceride at cholesterol, pwede nating masabing meron siyang metabolic syndrome. Okay? Other factors that can cause insulin resistance and type 2. In females, polycystic ovary syndrome. Ngayon, with regards to diabetes, yung type 1 and type 2 will fall under pancreatic diabetes. Yun na nga, alam na natin kung anong cause. Pero meron din tayong tinatawag kasing adrenal diabetes at saka pituitary diabetes. Yung pituitary, if there is excess growth hormone secretion, acromegaly, gigantism, usually nagkakaroon yan ng pituitary diabetes because excess growth hormone may anti-insulin effects. Okay? So ano nga uli yun? Decreased glucose uptake by the cells, decreased peripheral utilization of glucose. So ano mangyayari? Mataas ang blood glucose level. Stimulated uli ang pancreatic beta cells. So secrete siya ng insulin. Eh dahil ang cause ay maraming growth hormone, continuous ang pagtaas ng blood glucose, continuous uli ang stimulation ng pancreatic beta cells that will again mawe-wear out yung pancreatic beta cells. So magkakaroon ng diabetes. Pero ang pinakang-cause niyan is a pituitary condition. Ganyan din dito, in Cushing syndrome, marami kang cortisol. So increase ang gluconeogenesis. So mataas ang blood glucose level. Stimulated na naman ang pancreatic beta cells, secrete ng insulin hanggang mapagod siya. So yan yung magkukos ng adrenal diabetes. Okay? In some women or pregnant women, nagdi-develop din ng diabetes. Hindi lahat. Structure is almost the same as that of growth hormone. Okay? The other one is human placenta lactogen. Also, during pregnancy, marami kang estrogen and progesterone. And physiologically, in a pregnant woman, the pituitary gland hypertrophies. Lumalaki ng konti yan. Although after pregnancy, babalik sa normal size yan. So pag lumaki ang pituitary, nag-i-increase ang secretion ng ACTH, therefore increase ang cortisol. Increase ang secretion ng TSH, therefore increase ang thyroid hormones. So, maraming diabetogenic hormones na mag-i-increase ang secretion. But then again, hindi sa lahat ng buntis. Okay? These are just the clinical manifestations of diabetes mellitus. Kung kanina mataba siya, biglang kumakayat yung pasyente. And then asthenia, yan ang weakness, lack of energy. Easy fatigability, polyphagia, in females more prone to vaginal infection. Sa mga diabetic na males, 50 and above, common ang impotence. Okay? Numbness or tingling sensation at the tips of the fingers and toes because of neuropathy. Then you have polydipsia, sudden weight loss, blurry vision because of retinopathy. Then polyuria, at yung pinaka-common na alam natin, sugat na hindi gumagaling. Okay? Okay, now. Ito mga complications, tingnan na lang natin sa picture. Nasa left upper blurring of vision. Again, that is due to retinopathy. Itong nasa upper right, renal failure. Kung halimbawa, nagkaroon ng atherosclerosis involving the renal artery, so kikitid siya. Magdi-decrease ang renal blood flow, magkakaroon eventually ng renal failure. Kaya karamihan sa mga diabetic patient na uncontrolled ang kanilang blood glucose level, nag-undergo ng dialysis. Yan yung nasa left lower. And then neuropathy, so nagkakaroon ng numbness, tingling sensation at the tips of the fingers and toes. Okay, gangrene. So halimbawa, may atherosclerosis, nabarahan yung mga arteries papunta sa lower extremities. So decrease ang blood flow, decrease ang oxygen supply. Nagkaroon ng sugat na hindi gumagaling. So eventually, magiging gangrenous yung sugat na yan. Kaya karamihan sa kanila, anong nangyayari? Na-amputate para wag umakyat yung gangrene. Okay? Itong dalawa, atherosclerosis siya. Okay, next. Kabaliktaran. Hypoglycemia, and the most common cause is a tumor in the pancreas involving the beta cells, insulinoma. If the condition is benign, we call that adenoma. But there are some cases wherein malignant yung tumor. So kung napakaraming insulin, ano mangyayari? Hypoglycemia. And ang pinakang naapektuhan dito, CNS. Because remember that the main source of energy or food of the neurons is glucose. So kung kanina, ipinag natin ang FDS sa 80 to 110, what will happen pag bumaba na siya ngayon? If the FDS falls to 50 to 70, the CNS becomes excitable, andyan ay may hallucination, ninenervyos, pinagpapawisan, sumasakit ng ulo, nagugutom, nanginginig. Actually, kahit naman hindi diabetic, minsan, pwede nyo ma-experience yan. Kung halimbawa, napakatagal nyo hindi kumakain kasi nagpre-prepara kayo sa exam halimbawa sa alas 12 ng tanghali. So aral ng aral, hindi na kumain. Anong mararamdaman nyo eventually? Nagugutom na ako. Mamaya ang sakit ng ulo. Mamaya nahihilo. Ibig sabihin nag-hypoglycemia na. Okay? Kalimitan sa mga diabetic na pasyente, may baon silang candy. So pag nakaramdam sila ng ganyan, ibig sabihin may hypoglycemia na, kakain ng candy. Marirelieve yung pananakit ng ulo, yung pagkagutom, etc. O kaya Coke regular kasi mataas ang sugar nyo. Kasi ang problema mo, hypoglycemia. Okay? Pag bumaba pa yan, clonic seizures, loss of consciousness. Eventually, magiging comatose na rin ang pasyente. So, ibig sabihin, pag hypoglycemia, pwede ka magkaroon ng coma o maging comatose ang pasyente. Kanina, pag may diabetic acidosis, pwede rin siya maging comatose. So, halimbawa ngayon, may diabetic patient dinala sa ER, comatose, without doing any laboratory exam. Paano nyo malalaman kung hypogly or hypergly? Anybody? Ano? Actually, nabanggit natin kanina yan.
Random.
Ano, Stephen?
Random blood sugar test.
Hindi, without doing any laboratory. Respiratory pattern. Kussmaul's respiration in hyperglycemia, rapid and deep. At saka may amoy ang hininga nila. Fruity, parang acetone. Acetone breath ang tawag doon. That is in diabetic ketoacidosis. So, ano treatment dito? Immediate IV ng large quantities of glucose, glucagon, epinephrine para maiakyat yung blood glucose level. Okay? Okay, any questions?
None po.
Okay, now before we end our lecture, I have some news for you. CHED has given us the go signal to proceed with our